Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Swing Museum. I'm your host, Jan Eberle, and today we are awaiting the arrival of our guests, Harry and Edna. They're coming a long journey, but I think it'll be worth it. I'm looking so forward to catching up with them, hearing about their stories of their radio show, and we've also selected some music for them that they have chosen. So I think it's going to be I think I hear them coming now. I'll be right back. Well, I'm so glad that you two made it here safely. I know it was a long journey, and the flight was long. But we're so glad to see you. It seems like it seems like such a long time that we were first acquainted with you at WYYR.
That was a long time ago now.
Yeah, how did you end up contacting Chris Valeni, or did he find you? How did that work?
I think I just sent him an email pleading, please give us some airtime. I think that's how it started. I could say it was more refined than that, but I think it was just pure begging.
Yeah. So yeah, I want to start out a little bit with where you all are from. I know you probably, well, you might have grown up in the same town, but where are you from? Edna?
I'm originally from God's county called Yorkshire, so every now and again I say things like and up and Kirkacurla and stuff like that, and Bath. But you've managed to drag it out of me.
I've made you more southern.
More southern, yes. However, you...
So my dad was in the RAF, Royal Air Force, and my sister was born in Gibraltar, and I was born in what was West Berlin.
Oh.
So when it was sort of shared out still, and I was born in a British Forces hospital in Germany, in West Berlin. So my parents settled back over in the UK when my dad came out of the forces, toured around a bit as they do when people come out of the services, and then settled in the new town of Milton Keynes in Buckinghamshire.
Which, pretty much centre of the country.
Yeah, we couldn't get more landlocked, could we? And that's where we met. Well, we met through reenacting and our shared love of history.
Yes. Oh, that's me.
Yeah,
yes,
I was going to hand the story over to you.
I was going to say, no, we met back in, I think it was 1651, during the English Civil War. And then we became time tarts and flitted around various centuries until settling in our beloved 1940s. So, yeah, we originally sat doing living history based around the English Civil War period, which is
Charles I.
1650-ish, depending on which war you're actually fighting at that time. So it's three of them.
But I'll bet that was an interesting conversation when you met as reenactors as to how each of you ended up there, because that's not something that a lot of people do. I'm acquainted with a few people who do that 30s, 40s era, and they don't forget dates, they don't forget things to remember, important people it's just such a beautiful thing to watch. Were you surprised to meet through that, because it's not something that everybody in the world does?
I was surprised because it was my hobby, and there isn't an awful lot of ladies taking in a hobby, so it's kind of thing just what you do because you enjoyed it, and I never expected to meet my future wife for it.
No,
particularly as we were on opposite sides.
Yeah.
And so you portrayed a gentleman in the cavalry, and I was on the foot soldiers. And this is the days before we had the health and safety legislation we have today. And I used to specialise in pulling the cavalry off the horses.
Yeah, which
hurts. And I pulled her off.
It hurts when you come off in armour.
Oh my gosh.
Hit the ground. Yeah.
So did you decide from then that you would only be participating together in doing them, or did you still do separate reenactions?
We did. We always went to the same battle, so there was always a reenactment of a specific battle across the country. And quite a few of them were on the original battlefields that historically they would have happened. I started off as a royalist, which was where Harry's kind of regiment was, but but I've always ridden and I loved horses, so I turncoated, it's called, and I went and joined the opposition parliament. And it was just interesting going up against your old regiment, because their main aim was to get you off the horse. So sort of the trying to do the fighting went out the window a bit, and it was a bit more sort of personal between the fighting that was going on. But the adrenaline, you can't explain the adrenaline of reenacting a full-scale battle. Was incredible.
But you're also not trying to hurt each other.
No, you're not.
Let's put it so we all have to go to work in the morning. So
yeah, a bit bruised, but you're still going.
the whole idea was not to put each other in hospital.
No.
Yeah, that would be sort of hard to explain. People would say, "Where did you get that black eye, Edna?" You know.
Yeah, they'd often expect us in partly broken on a Monday morning.
Yeah.
honey, dear, I do. And do I need you? Oh my, do I? Honey, honey, dear, I do. I'm glad that I'm the one who found you. That's why I'm always hanging round you. Do I love you? Oh my, do I? Honey, honey, deed I do. I love her, don't mean maybe. Honey, baby, deed I do. Do you love me, baby? Sure, I love her, baby. Precious baby, deed I do.
Did you do the reenactments at Twinwood as well?
We did
sort
some.
of.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Because I mean, how it went, we were in the 17th century. Then we decided to, well, I decided to leap forward to my true passion, which is sort of the Edwardian Great War era. You came with me, then you decided you wanted the vote, and so then that pushed us on into the 40s era.
I wasn't content to peel spuds, which was my role as a woman.
I don't know if you say spuds in America.
No,
potatoes.
So I'd come from, adrenaline-fueled battle reenactment to peeling potatoes and making food for the troops, and that didn't quite float my boat anymore. I wasn't that interested. But then, and then we sort of found a group that did World War II reenactment, home front side. That's sort of where our passion is the social history side of things. And we knew a number of friends that then were at Twinwoods and invited us to go along and do some battle scenarios with them and sit in their encampments. And that's sort of...
We drank a lot of tea. I remember that. A lot of tea. and spam sandwiches.
Spam sandwiches,
Yes,
yeah.
Thanks for sending that over, by the way. It's very handy.
I tell you, I found Twinwood to be fascinating. It was much more than I thought it would be. I mean, it was everything and more. And I enjoyed just walking through those backwoods, you know what I mean, once you leave the stage area you're heading toward the old airfield, you know, back where that building is. And watching the reenactors, pardon me. And I just thought to myself, this is just really puts the cherry on top of really getting the feel. You're listening to the music, you're in the place where it all took place. And then there's reenactors, and I just felt like I didn't want to leave. I didn't want the weekend to end. It was just fascinating.
Now the crew chiefs and Shoo Shoo Baby. Shoo, shoo, baby. Shoo, 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 baby. Shoo, 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 baby. Your papa's off to the 7 seas. Don't cry, baby. Don't cry, baby. Bye, 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 baby. When I come back, we'll live a life of ease. Seems kind of tough now to say goodbye this way, but Papa's gotta be rough now so that he can be sweet to you another day. Bye, 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 baby. Don't cry, baby. Shoo, 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 baby. Your Papa's off to the 7 seas. Tough now to say goodbye this way, but Papa's gotta be rough now so that he can be sweet to you another day. Bye, 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 baby. Don't cry, baby. Shoo, 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 baby. Oh, your Papa's off to the 7 seas. Shoo, shoo, shoo. Shoo, shoo, shoo. Shoo, shoo, shoo. Your Papa. Oh, your Papa. Oh, your Papa. On the 7 seas.
We did the very first one, which I think was 2000 or 2001. And we've attended, I think, every single one since.
Yeah.
And it's certainly grown. So when it first started, it was literally a farm trailer with a step ladder. And they used to, and the acts used to go onto the farm trailer and perform what was then a field. And then they built the amphitheatre later and things like that.
And it was the Glenn Miller Tribute Festival, wasn't
Originally, it was the Glenn Miller Festival.
I was going to say that. I recall a friend of mine who was with the original gentleman, I guess, who had the brainstorm of putting this together, and it was originally supposed to be all about Miller, but I'll tell you, I think you can go only so far with that because you want to draw people and you want to share it, so they ended up opening it up and putting the dance floor thing out there, and and everything. And I was just all for it. Didn't have to be all about Miller for sure. There was enough Millerites there who just loved the feeling of being there and knowing that Glenn had been there. And then they flew the planes over. So it was pretty amazing, I have to say.
Yeah, I always found that that those that go there and reenact want to get it absolutely right. So their authenticity is absolutely 100%. They'll go to the length to make sure their socks are right, their hats, the hairstyles are right, the bags are right. You know, everything, all the detail is 100% sort of historically accurate. It's certainly the groups that we were with and have met there, and it's you know, looky likey or as near as can be isn't right. It has to be absolutely 100%. Not always original, but you get some really good reproductions now that you wouldn't be able to spot the difference. And then you, as you know, you can turn up at the festival not knowing anything and dress yourself, get your hair done there, so you can immerse yourself in the whole experience, which I think is really amazing.
That would be very, very true. Yeah, I was very impressed with Twinwood, and I missed the last time I was there was with John Miller's orchestra in 2007, and I didn't realize how big the stage really was when they played my intro and I walked out. I went, I have to hurry. I have to run. You know? So it was amazing. I would love the opportunity to go back again to traveling overseas for the next you know, time or a year or two is going to be very difficult.
Michigan water tastes like cherry wine, mean cherry wine. Oh, the Mississippi water tastes like turpentine. Michigan water tastes like cherry wine. Bleed to my soul, my gal got a black cat bone. Yes, black cat bone. She'll go away, but she's sure to come back home. Michigan water tastes like cherry wine. She looks like a frog, hops like a kangaroo. If you ain't got no hopper, let you be your hopper too. Michigan water tastes like cherry wine. Michigan water tastes like cherry wine. Gal in Alabama, one in Spain, another in Mississippi. I'm scared to call her name. Michigan water tastes like cherry wine. Michigan water tastes like cherry wine.
Change gears. I could talk all day about reenacting. I love it. If I had the time, I would love to be involved in that. So you spent a lot of time in that world. When did you really decide that the music from the age of new radio, which was 1930s? When did you really start to go, hey, let's have a radio show or let's broadcast something? When did that come in?
Came just by chance. We were asked to appear on a local radio show where we live because we were classed as those weird people that live in the street who dress in old clothes. And before we actually got to the interview, they said, "Did you want your own program?" And that's how it started originally.
I think we did
We had a 6-week contract.
That's right. Yeah.
Which we've still got now.
Yeah.
Which must be
So many years later.
Yeah, more than a decade.
Long 6 weeks.
They've never actually sent us another contract. We've still got the original one.
Just go with the flow.
We just go with the flow, yeah. So that's how it started.
And then I think because it's a really big scene over in the UK, we always worried that we'd run out of content or we'd sort of run out of content for the show. Yeah. But as the years that we've done it, we've always found more and more people. It diversifies. There's new events that we can cover. And it's just gone from strength to strength, and it's really bizarre, and you probably get this yourself when you go to events and to places and people recognise you or know who you are, and that's quite strange for us.
Well, it was for us. We developed a whole series of questions to try and work out if we actually did know them.
Well, we're really glad that you did. So you entered into this happenstance, and you were really enjoying it. And so what did you really think at some point was going to happen? Like, for instance, I know, Harry, that you've got Gramophone Harry now. Ray and I checked it out a couple of weeks ago, and it's awesome. I mean, you guys do a wonderful job on both. But when did you really, I mean, I know it's got to still be sort of far back there. When did you really think, radio, I mean, we could really do this and keep this going and reach a lot of people? That's sort of scary. It was for me when I first did it years ago.
I guess I'm going to show my age because I was born back in 1900 and oatcake, but back in the 80s I had this vision of being a radio presenter. So I had done radio long ago. This was in the days of reel-to-reel tapes and proper shellac radio records and not a computer inside. So I had a little bit of experience. So when we were offered, did we want to do it, I knew how to run a mixing desk, for example, so we were able to do that. And I actually like radio as a medium. We're not big television watchers, to be honest, but we're really addicted to radio. Well, you've gone forward, don't you? You're addicted to podcasts.
Yeah.
I'm particularly
I think it's the music. We've always loved the music. Being immersed in the scene through reenactment, the music's been around us all the time. Wherever you go to events, it's there's always music on. I guess because I started to do when we did the reenacting, I started to go on and do talks to our WI groups. They're called Women's Institute, something that came out of the Second World War, still going around today. So I talked to historical groups, WIs, all sorts of groups. So I was used to talking to complete strangers and striking up conversations. So it sort of was natural that I did the interviewing and you did the technical side.
Mm-hmm.
But as you say, when you first start out, we were very intimidated by the people listening to us talking, and when you're doing it live, you do become very conscious of all your mistakes and not getting things right vocally. But I think the more we've done it, the more we've just settled into it. It's natural now, and because we're a couple, there's that natural rapport that we have.
Ray and I are the same. Yeah, Ray, it's the same with Ray and I. In fact, I do all the radio and the interviewing, and he does the production. I mean, it's really amazing. We both find the same enjoyment out of the era. I think when I met Ray years ago, he really got hooked on the era too, and the history and his late father-in-law and all of the music from Miller. So that really helps, and it helps the understanding with the other person instead of going, what are you doing? So it really does help quite a bit to have a rapport in that way.
my heart go boom. Me and my heart go boom, boom-pretty boom, all together. Boom, when you are near it's boom. You disappear and boom, boom-pretty boom, stormy weather. Dawn's early light and the still of the night give a boom at the sight of a wonder. Like Mandalay, now the dawn of the day, it comes up with a boom like thunder. Boom, one little look and boom. Me and my heart go boom, boom, pretty boom, all together.
So if you really had to do something that showcased your love for reenactment, your love for 1930s radio, what would that be?
It would be boring for anyone to watch, but I would love to be on the set of Jeeves and Wooster. I would love to be Bertie Wooster. I'm far too old, and I'm not from that class, and it would be boring to watch, but I would love that.
We've done, because our house used to be, we decorated it into the style of 1930s and a little bit of 40s. So we used to get asked to do quite a bit of filming, and there was an exhibition on in London. It was called the 1940s house, where they'd taken this family and moved them back into the sort of done up this house back into how it would have been in 1939. And we visited it, and we would have quite happily just shut the door and just moved into the house. Yeah. So I think that sums us up. We'd quite happily go back to that era, I think, and probably cherry pick all the nice bits, because we have that benefit of hindsight and health and public health systems.
Ricketts, diphtheria and Hitler wasn't a great
No,
mix, really,
we'll take them bits out.
We'll have those bits.
I'll tell you, you know what I would really see for you would be a mini documentary. I mean, of following in by combining your love and your talent for reenacting along with the music, you could really host your own mini doc and have it. I mean, it would be, you have the passion for it and the talent for it, absolutely, without a doubt. But I think you'd really love it.
Yeah.
I would love it.
Yes, I'm sure
we've got 3 children now. We were doing this before we had children, and I don't know what they would take to it. I'm still trying to prize our daughter away from Netflix during lockdown. So, you know.
But they grew up with it, so, and it's quite interesting. They did grow up with it. So we had the big old Marmette pram, and they were all babies in this big old-fashioned pram. They had all the wooden toys. They dressed in the old original clothing.
And they discovered Xbox, and that was it.
Well, so they would come away for the weekends with us. And it was lovely because they got back to being children, as in, you know, picking up all sorts and, you know, mucky knees and dirty faces, and they loved it. And you get to a point where they do move away from it. But our eldest is now coming. She's like vintage shops. We have a lot of vintage shops in the UK, so she likes going around. She's collecting vinyl now. She's into her music, so I think she's sort of coming round to
Yeah, but what she calls vintage is different.
Yeah.
She thinks anything from the 80s, 90s is vintage.
Yeah. Well, she's got Beach Boys.
She's raided my wardrobe. This is my homage to the 90s, this wardrobe.
She's got an original Beach Boys vinyl she's quite chuffed with. So. But yeah, a bit too modern for us.
Yeah, well, at some point, 30 years down the road, it probably will be considered vintage, but, you know, probably a little early for that now. So,
How do you feel when you marry your ideal? Ever so goosey, 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 goosey. How do you feel when the bells begin to peal? Ever so goosey, 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 goosey. Walking up the aisle in a kind of daze. Do you get the wind up when the organ plays? How do you feel when the parson's done the deal? Ever so goosey, 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 goosey.
So your personal taste in music, I mean, I know that you're talking about playing what you play when you're on air and on the wireless, and Harry, where you select your music from. Is it your personal stuff? Do you?
Well, my father was very much into that sort of period of music, so we have a lot of his collection. If I had a choice, and I haven't got a huge amount, I'm not saying a huge amount, probably less than about 30 or 40 tracks, it's sort of the British scene from the 30s, because in those periods, America and Britain was really quite different in its musical taste, I guess, because of the distance and the communication. And you have some weird, what we think is weird songs, like I bought my girlfriend a watermelon last night, and I watched a fly climb up the window, and these sort of like almost like jollity songs, really. And I like those because I love the clever use of lyrics, and you have to really listen to what they say. So I like those kind of songs. And
Yeah, that's when you can understand lyrics. You know,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and the other thing is, I think a lot of the composers during that period of time wrote a lot of verses before the actual song. And people today, when you hear somebody redo a song like that and use the verse, they have no idea what song it is, because there were so many people between that period who just went out and recorded the song without the beauty of the verse in there. I think that was big in the 30s and 40s.
Yeah, and it was a lot of the music and songs were about fun, weren't they? As well as you were talking about jollity, they were just having fun. There was you didn't have to kind of produce an output or sell so many millions of records to keep you. Some of them were just pure fun and silliness, and you know, we like to play some of those now and again, don't we, in the show,
A lot of them you can't play for.
because there's some
Yes,
rude words in
there's
there.
some words which, I'm not saying rude,
The sense-
but the sense of it, you know,
It's just changed. The meaning's changed over time, and it wasn't offensive back then, and
No.
people might take offence to it now.
No, if you were saying, you know, to somebody back in the 1930s, how was that birthday party? Oh, we had a gay time.
Yeah,
That was just absolutely the description, because that is the real definition of gay is wonderful. It's just, and so it's people use words differently, and they put whatever meaning later on, but that was the lingo then. And sometimes I even find myself saying, you know, geez, I've had a gay time, you know. It's just one of those things that sort of dates you a little bit, but so what are your next projects? I mean, do you have something really sitting in? Do you have any interviews? Do you have and I know you're busy with your family too, and work.
I really like, from the Harry and Edna on the wireless side, I'd really like to be more disciplined and actually getting the podcast out rather than once a month, which is massive for lucky. I would like to do that. However, you can't really see behind it, it's dark, but we're just coming out of lockdown, and we have an old Victorian house which is on this, well, it was falling down, it's more or less staying up now. You have a long list, and then you found another house that's even more in a bad state than this one, and you're tempted to buy that one.
So I found a house that was built in 1884, and it's kind of got holes in the roof.
The barge boards have fell off.
Barge board, and
it's got dry rot, wet rot, woodworm.
And I said to Harry, wow, that would be such a fun project.
I think that's the next, so we're talking about buying that.
Yeah.
So that'll keep us on.
Do you all have what we call in the States a historic registry? So if it's a certain number of years old, it falls under the antique registry, and then
we do.
And then you can't change, when you can't add things to it that don't belong in the original thing. You can redo them, but you just can't change the original integrity, I guess, of the homestead. And what would you do with that?
In the UK we have they're listed buildings, so they have a listed, they're grade 2 listed, 3 listed, 1 listed, and that is the variance of how much you can tinker about with them and not destroy the historic fabric. It was made famous by Queen Victoria when she moved over here with her summer residence, her summer palace on the island. So there's a lot of really beautiful Victorian houses over here, so they're not as special, if you see what I mean, because they're everywhere, and there's such incredible detailing and architectural style that we're lucky, really. So we've had such joy doing this one up.
Victorian homes, they're really large. I mean, they really, really are big.
But by modern standards, because we've lived in modern houses, and they're very, well, in the UK they're very tiny, maximum out the building plot. And we don't have that. Although we found the old deeds for this house. I think originally it was something like 3 acres in I don't know if you definitely know, because it's a unit size.
Yes.
It was a big plot, but that's all been sold off over the time, so we only have a small area backyard now, because all the rest has got houses on. But originally that was huge.
Yeah. So apart from podcasts, we're missing events as well. So because of the year of sort of lockdown, all the events have been cancelled. That's what we're missing, and we're looking forward to getting back out there and getting back in amongst the live music, because I'm sure you appreciate, you can't beat live big band sounds are just amazing. So
it really is. I just talked to Nick Hilscher last week, and they had not worked since, I think it was maybe the second week in March. And so that's the longest that the Miller Band has gone without working, you know. So last week they did drive up, to, I think it was Indiana. There was one gig up there, and it was, I think he was glad to be back at doing it. It was just the one. But, you know, people were wearing masks, and they were every so many seats you could only occupy. So it was about half full total. But it's just sort of a stark reminder of what we're really going through. But I'll tell you something that dawned on me the other day when I was doing the promo. And I was talking about radio in the sense that back then it was virtual. It was a virtual reality. Say you were like here in this country, we would have baseball games that were broadcast on the radio. And so you have nothing visual, but suddenly your mind starts taking over and you start seeing it in a virtual way. And I said to Ray, the golden age of radio in the 1930s hasn't changed. It's still virtual. We're bringing things, we're bringing ourselves so people can see us, which is nicer. But really, it really is just virtual reality. You have to use your imagination. Don't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
There was a comedy show called The Goon Show in the 1950s, which featured some of the great comedians at the time, and they've never been able to recreate it on television or film, simply because it relied on the power of your imagination. It was a very surreal, very, very silly sort of sketches, but they could never create those in reality. But with a few sound effects and some silly voices, you could do it. So I get it. Yeah, your imagination can create a far better scene than Steven Spielberg can.
Yeah, and that's why I always love the spoken word, and I love the imagination that people, when they try and paint pictures for you, your imagination kicks in, and I just think I'm so glad in a way we're going back to it, and certainly a lot of our friends that are artists over this period have had to come up with really creative ways of reaching out to their audiences so they don't lose their followings and their audiences in really creative ways. I know some of it's through YouTube, but it's also sort of trying to do things so very differently and more creatively. I think for some of them, it was a challenge to begin with, but they've actually then enjoyed being able to just be as creative as they want and come up with some fantastic ideas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Some things will never, ever change. And as long as there's radio, it will always be the original virtual thing for your mind. That's really, I think people were excited when TV came on the air, the whatever it was that they played in the very earliest of days. But I think at some point when you go back to radio, you're never disappointed.
No, not at all. And I think people had a much better use of language as well, because you're trying to be so much more descriptive and trying to sum up pictures in people's minds. The way people presented back then was very different as well, because it's trying to engage you and draw you into their world, both musically and vocally.
Absolutely, I agree.
You was lost in mind what I was saying.
I'd actually thinking of a completely off the tangent anecdote, but it was so weird. I thought it would take longer to explain than the gags at the end of it. So.
Fell in love with you, heart and soul, the way a fool would do, madly, because you held me tight and stole a kiss in a night. Heart and soul, I begged to be adored, lost control and tumbled overboard. Gladly, that magic night we kissed there in the moonlit. Ah, but your lips were thrilling, much too thrilling. Never before were mine so strangely. Now I see what one embrace can do. Look at me, it's got me loving you madly. That little kiss you stole held heart and soul. Were thrilling, much too thrilling. Never before were mine so strangely willing, but now I see what one embrace can do. Look at me. It's got me loving you madly. That little kiss you stole held all my heart and soul.
Hey, Harry, would you ever consider doing Gramophone Harry with the video? You know, since it's.
I would love. I mean, the whole thing about what we're doing. You know, I don't know about Gramophone Harry because you're talking about that. Gramophone Harry came about because there was a request from various stations to do more music based and less talk. To be brutally honest, we like the chit chat,
Yeah.
and that also helped us do the podcast as well, because without because of podcasting, you know, licensing, you can't use the music. I'd love to do a bit of video work, but because it's how do you get your product out, and you know, the online video services seems to be the most popular way of doing it. But
you do it on stage, though, don't you? You've done Gramophone Harry on stage.
done it at Twinwoods.
Yes.
Done it at Twinwoods a few times.
And that's quite visually entertaining as well, with you trying to wind up your gramophone before, because you've not wound it up enough before the track
So
ends.
that's actually a gag in it.
Yeah.
Yours make sure it runs out halfway through.
Yeah, but that's your audience that really understands it. So you know you're not looking at somebody and they're looking back at you like you're speaking a whole different language, literally. You know, they expect that, and they probably revere and wish it would not stop, you know, that you could go
Yeah.
on and on with it. So it is fascinating. And even if you're in person and you're doing a radio presentation or like you say, a reenactment, there is still something that takes you back to another place, and it really makes it a timeless situation, which is, yeah, what I love.
I mean, playing the gramophone on the stage, that just came about because we used to run a vintage theme night in a theatre, and whenever you do these sort of events by yourself, you have to think of ways how to keep the costs down. And it was, I couldn't afford a warm-up act, so we had to create our own to be the warm-up act, and that's what it was. While people are finding their seats and getting their drinks and getting comfortable for the night, you have to have something on stage. So
we'd
Gramophone
recreated.
Harry was nice.
I was just going to say, to put it in context, we'd recreated a 1930s nightclub. So the idea is that you were entertained, you know, rather than
jiggy-jaggy dancing.
Dancing. So it was literally the opening act. Yeah. Oh, we did some great party dances, 1930s social dancing. They were, especially after people had had a couple of drinks, that they were quite entertaining. But but certainly the opening act for the nightclub, that's how it started.
That's how that started. The stage thing, yeah. So we only realistically do it for a couple of festivals, Twinwoods being one of them. Because, to be honest, you can only do it for so long before it gets boring. There's only so many times I can let the gramophone wind down.
And run across and do the comedic bit.
Do you have a gramophone collection, you know, or is a personal collection, or?
We've only got 3. So that's like a mini collection. We have 3.
Yeah,
which
you
are-
can't see
you
them,
can't see
they're on the
but they're over
shelf.
there behind
Yeah.
me. But yes, we have a trench radio, which is our favourite one, and then a couple of
Which is literally an original First World War trench
trench radio.
gramophone.
That's what it's called, trench radio.
Yeah.
And then a couple, one with a big horn on it, you know, and that sort of thing. But we have a problem with collections. We have too many of them, and we have to be very brutal as to how many things we have. If I could collect everything now,
Records was my problem. I when I was collecting records back in the late 70s, early 80s, when I first started singing with the Vincent Lopez Jr. Orchestra, I really got hooked on collecting, and I amassed some, I don't know, 12 or 1,500 albums. And so if you've ever had to move with these in boxes, oh my gosh, it's a startup for a bad argument. You know, like, what are you doing with those? How come you? I mean, I had to cut down at some point, but I used them when I first did radio as well. And I was behind the big pill mic, like you were, Harry, and with the turntables and the tape machines, the cart machines, and the knobs. And so it did make it difficult for me to transition to using, you know, the mouse becomes your arm for the turntable, and your music library inside the computer becomes your series of albums. It was a hard transition. Ray was the one that really helped me try to wrap my brain around it. It was hard, but I loved doing traditional radio.
Although when you ever are DJing at a festival, you know, now you've got to take your laptop and you plug it in. And I've got my entire music collection there.
Yeah.
So we have flight cases up and down stairs.
Of shellac, you know, and you know shellac, just you could break it so easily. And I think at the last Twinwoods, because it was a heat wave, so you had to find a freezer or somewhere really cold to put your records in, because they were just going to melt otherwise.
What was it? What would you consider a heat wave for Twinwood?
Did it hit 100?
It's nearly 100, yeah.
Oh,
Which,
wow.
if you're camping, is not fun.
Oh, the 2 times I went, it didn't break maybe 70.
Yeah. No,
this
just in the last sort of 4 or 5 years, the weather's gone crazy, and it's
that is a
we've
heat
just had
wave.
we've just had a storm here, you know, and we don't get storms. Storm season's usually October, so
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
I was not expecting a storm to hit us. It's
Yeah.
only just literally ended about 2 hours ago.
But you know, at Twinwood, being an airfield, is always windy. Hence, why they built it there. But I think
It wasn't that
it wasn't
weekend.
even windy. We were relying on the wind, but it didn't come, did it?
Well, I'm going to you know, let you know that we've gotten your selection of music, and we're so happy that you are allowing us to play it during the interview. We have 1 or 2 little tidbits of our own, and it's been so enjoyable to just sit and talk about things that we both love, which is radio and the era, and long live the era.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I always kept thinking this vintage scene revival one day would die off, but it's been about 20 years, so maybe not now.
Yeah, it's here to stay.
Yeah, I would say so. I think that's probably something that won't be going away at all. It'll be there as long as we're there to keep it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so you just need to work on your daughter in that vintage thing.
Yeah.
Bring that down 3 or 4 decades.
Yeah. Nirvana, no. A bit more ink spots.
Yeah, she does actually. She likes the ink spots, so she's getting there.
Oh, really? What is it? I wonder what it is about the ink spots that she loves. The
I have
harmony?
no idea, because I was surprised when she came back with the album from the thrift store. You know, she found one there, and I thought, ink spots. But she always does. I mean, she came with Jefferson Airplane, was it the other day?
Yeah.
That's not
really?
nothing here. I'm trying to work out, well, where did you even hear them?
We dabble in the 50s, and that's about as
modern as we
modern
go.
as we get.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I wish you both the very best. We'll need to stay in touch. You guys are amazing. I'm so happy that you have evolved and are under the the Dan White wing. It's a great place to be. He's got a lot of support for his hosts, and we can't ask for anything more than that. He really is a great guy. And I really appreciate you being with us today at the Swing Museum. And we'll be talking to you very, very soon, and be in touch, and be safe and be well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Brilliant.
Sweet and lovely, sweeter than the roses in May. Sweet and lovely, heaven must have sent her my way. Skies above me never were as blue as her eyes. And if she loves me, who could want a sweeter surprise? When she nestles in my arms so tenderly, there's a thrill that words cannot express. In my heart a song of love is taunting me, melody haunting me, sweet and lovely, sweeter than the roses in May. And if she loves me, there is nothing more I can say.
Night, Dan.